everyone, and welcome back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe Retrospective, taking a look at each film in the MCU and seeing how well they hold up. Last time we saw the reinvention of a classic hero with Thor Ragnarok, an incredibly hilarious journey. Today we look at the significant landmark not just for the MCU, but superhero movies as a whole with Black Panther. The history behind such an important hero has a humble beginning. Black Panther debuted in Fantastic Four number 52 in 1966 and was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. The character came about from a desire to include heroes of African ethnicity. Although the publishers didn't see him as a big deal, he became a great success when he got his own series. In television, the character appeared in several cartoons and had a motion comic produced by BET. In this version, T'Challa was voiced by Djimon Hounsou. A few other Marvel actors also appeared, including Kerry Washington, Alfre Woodard, and Carl Lumbly. Stan Lee even played a significant role. In the film world, a Black Panther movie began development in the 90s, with Wesley Snipes working closely on the project and was in talks to play the hero. Unfortunately, the project sat in development hell for years, with Snipes moving on to do Blade instead. When the character's rights returned to Marvel, he was put among the list of heroes that would be part of the MCU. The studio then began developing the story and planted seeds of Black Panther and his home of Wakanda in their other movies. Eventually, Chadwick Boseman was cast to make the character's debut in Captain America: Civil War. After considering directors like Ava DuVernay and F. Gary Gray, Marvel hired Ryan Coogler to helm the Black Panther movie. Coming off the success of Creed, Coogler worked on a script with Joe Robert Cole. The production drew a lot of inspiration from African tribes and countries when developing the world of Wakanda. The language used for the country was Xhosa, taken from South Africa and Zimbabwe. The dialect and accents were derived from various areas of the continent. Above anything else, Marvel wanted to accurately portray African culture and the life of an African American in this age. Black Panther premiered in early 2018 and was a phenomenal success. It became one of the highest grossing films of all time, and critics and audiences loved its unique style and powerful storytelling. Now that Wakanda has genuinely changed forever, is Black Panther enough on its own? I know, dumbest question in the world, but I need to set up. Before we talk about the plot, I should mention the Marvel Studios logo here. The film's initial theatrical and home release were unchanged from the other films in Phase 3. Following Boseman's passing, the sequence was altered in the Disney Plus release, showing his moments in the MCU to honor his memory. It's a beautiful tribute that's always bittersweet when I watch this movie now. The film begins with one of Marvel's most visually unique openings. A father tells his son the origin of Wakanda, which is visually shown in an incredible CG sequence made up of vibranium as a black powder. Thousands of years ago, a meteorite struck Africa, where Wakanda was later founded. On that meteorite was vibranium, the strongest substance in the universe, and more than metal. 5 tribes settled around the landing of the meteorite and waged war for control of the vibranium. One person among the tribes received a vision from the panther god Bast and consumed a heart-shaped herb imbued with the vibranium, giving him superpowers and becoming the first Black Panther. He united the tribes under a single rule, though one tribe, the Jabari, remained in the mountains separated from the rest of the country. As centuries passed and Africa was ravaged with slavery and massacres, the people of Wakanda built a protective barrier around their home and hid its true image to protect their way of life. We then cut to a flashback in Oakland, California, 1992. 2 men, played by Sterling K. Brown and Denzel Whitaker, plan a heist of weapons when they are visited by the Dora Milaje, an all-female group of warriors sworn to protect the ruler of Wakanda. Speaking of him, the young King T'Chaka, played by John Connie's son Antondwa, appears before them, revealing that one of the men is his brother Njobu. T'Chaka tells Njobu of an attack on Wakanda by Ulysses Claw, who stole some of their vibranium and killed several people. T'Chaka confronts Njobu, who gave Claw the intel on Wakanda, betraying his nation. He also reveals that the other man is Zuri, a spy sent to watch Njobu and report to the king. T'Chaka says that Njobu will have to answer for his crimes, and we cut to black. We then return to the present, where T'Challa watches a news broadcast of his father's death. His right hand and protector Okoye, played by Denai Guerrera, takes him to his ex-girlfriend Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o, who is working undercover to rescue women from trafficking. In a cool fight scene at night, he extracts Nakia, informs her of T'Chaka's death, and brings her home, shown with breathtaking visuals and an amazing score. Ludwig Göransson, a frequent collaborator of Coogler's, knew exactly how the world of Wakanda would sound like. Seeing the shots of this lived-in place with the music in the background creates a visceral feeling when seeing Wakanda for the first time. T'Challa reunites with his mother, Queen Ramonda, played by Angela Bassett, and his sister Shuri, played by Letitia Wright. They prepare for the ceremony where he is set to become king. Meanwhile, at a museum in London, Eric Killmonger Stevens, played by Michael B. Jordan, steals a Wakandan artifact with the help of Claw, who plans to sell it on the black market. They escape with the help of Eric's girlfriend Linda, played by Nabia Bey. Bey's character was originally named Tilda Johnson, aka Nightshade from the comics. The name was changed when the character appeared in the Netflix show Luke Cage, as played by Gabrielle Dennis. This isn't the first time a Marvel show did an MCU retcon. In Doctor Strange, one of the sorcerers, played by Linda Louise Dwan, was credited as Tina Minoru from Runaways. However, she was never specifically mentioned by name. So when Hulu did the Runaways show, they simply retconned the character to be in the series as played by Brittany Ishibashi. Back in Wakanda, the ceremony begins, showing off the culture of the inhabitants, especially with their fantastic costumes. The ceremony was led by a much older Zuri, played by Forrest Whitaker, no relation to Denzel. Although I do find it ironic that they played the same person here, a father and son in The Great Debaters, and share the same last name, but yet aren't related. T'Challa has his powers stripped away and offers a challenge for the warriors selected by the tribes to seek the throne. The merchant, border, river, and mining tribes all reject the challenge. However, the Jabari tribe, led by M'Baku, played by Winston Duke, appears from the shadows and accepts the challenge. In the comics, M'Baku is referred to as Man-Ape or White Gorilla. The character was a frequent adversary to Black Panther and was more antagonistic, constantly plotting to steal the throne from T'Challa. While we get hints of that here, this is another reinvention of a villain who is a purist regarding tradition. T'Challa and M'Baku duke it out in ritual combat. While the action in the movie is of course top-notch, the ritual combat duels are a highlight for many reasons. There's a great deal of emotion in each hit from both parties because they are fascinating, well-written, and acted characters. While M'Baku does get the upper hand, T'Challa gets him in a headlock and convinces him to yield, as the only other defeat is in death. T'Challa is crowned King of Wakanda. In another ritual, he receives the Black Panther powers again and is taken to the ancestral plane, where he speaks with his father's spirit in a bittersweet reunion. The plane has perhaps the most beautiful visuals in the entire film. The effects team brought their A-game here. T'Chaka tells his son the path of king is difficult, especially since T'Challa is a good man, and it's hard for a good man to be king. We get some more scenic views of Wakanda, with T'Challa speaking with Nakia about her work, feeling her place is outside the country. Claw's theft of the vibranium from London hits their radar. T'Challa declares his first action as king is to bring Claw to justice for his crimes against the kingdom. The tribe council is hesitant, but the leader of the border tribe, W'Kabi, played by Daniel Kaluuya, remarks his parents were killed by Claw when he attacked Wakanda and spent the past 30 years seeking vengeance. T'Challa promises to bring him in. He goes to Shuri, who showcases new tech including a nanite suit and a fun Bond-style Q scene. T'Challa, Okoye, and Nakia travel to Busan and go to an underground casino where Claw intends to sell the vibranium. While there, they run into Everett Ross from Civil War and Stan Lee gambling like the winner he is. It turns out Everett is posing as the buyer for a sting operation. T'Challa warns him that Claw will face Wakandan justice, but Ross wants to play parlay and appease both sides. They don't have much time though, as Claw shows up for the deal. Okoye is made and their cover is blown, leading to a shootout with Claw using a prosthetic arm gun made out of vibranium. This set piece highlights T'Challa's skills outside the suit and gives Okoye and Nakia some action as well. Claw tries to escape, leading to a car chase where Shuri remotely pilots T'Challa's car, giving us some more iconic imagery. Eventually, T'Challa catches him and goes for the kill, but the others convince him to let Ross interrogate him. By the way, Andy Serkis is just hilarious here and is having so much fun. Klaue tries to convince Ross that the Wakandans are not who they say they are. Killmonger breaks Klaue out during interrogation and they escape, but not before T'Challa notices him wearing the same ring that his father gave to him. In the firefight, Ross takes a bullet in the back. T'Challa chooses to take him to Wakanda, much to Okoye's hesitation. Shuri heals him in her lab, while T'Challa lets W'Kabi down, saying they failed the mission. T'Challa confronts Zuri about his uncle N'Jobu and the truth behind his death. Zuri reveals that N'Jobu was sent as a war dog in America to observe but not interfere in the affairs of other lives. During his time undercover, he fell in love and had a son, Eric. He found a new perspective and chose to act instead of hiding, which is why Zuri was sent to discover the truth. N'Jobu was so upset about his betrayal that he went to kill Zuri but was stopped by T'Chaka, who took his life instead. The two agreed to never speak of this and left Eric behind to maintain the lie. This leads T'Challa questioning what kind of person his father really was. Meanwhile, Eric kills Klaue and takes his body to the Border Tribe as a gift. He uses this to get an audience with the Council. Ross explains that Eric was a Black Ops Navy SEAL who racked up many kills to the point of marking them on his body. His work specialized in toppling governments, striking at their leaders. Also, his outfit here was based on Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, as Jordan is an avid anime fan. He reveals his true identity as N'Jaka, the son of N'Jobu, and challenges T'Challa to ritual combat, as is his birthright. The fight is overseen only by the tribe leaders, as he reveals his motivation is revenge for his father. In the fight, T'Challa tries to reason with Eric, but he is out for blood. As he goes for the killing blow, Zuri stops him, reveals his involvement in N'Jobu's death, and asks that his life be taken instead. Eric kills him without a second thought. He then throws a weakened T'Challa down the waterfall, where he is presumed dead, making him king. Nakia gets Shuri and Ramonda out of the kingdom away from Killmonger, but Okoye chooses to stay loyal to the throne. Eric goes through the same ritual to receive the Black Panther powers and reach the ancestral plane, where he shares a tearful reunion with his own father. He then has the garden that harvests the heart-shaped herb burned, leaving no possibility of another panther being created. Thankfully, Nakia manages to save the last herb and travels with Shuri, Ramonda, and Ross to the mountain, where they try to offer it to M'Baku. He is less than impressed by their pleas, but upon seeing the herb, he takes them to an unconscious T'Challa, rescued by a fisherman and brought to him. They give the herb to T'Challa and pray for him to return. On the ancestral plane, T'Chaka tells him it's time to come home, but T'Challa chastises his actions and all the previous rulers who did nothing while many suffered and died when they could have helped. He chooses to return and destroy the monster they made. He asks M'Baku for help, but he does not want Jabari lives sacrificed for a cause that never benefited his people. T'Challa says he can't speak for the past kings, but he promises to set things right. Nakia, Shuri, and Ross go to the lab while T'Challa confronts Killmonger, who prepares to send weapons worldwide and oppose all rulers. W'Kabi and the Border Tribe fight T'Challa, while Okoye and the Dora Milaje choose to stop Killmonger. Shuri and Nakia suit up with their own armor and weapons, while Ross remotely pilots a ship to stop weapons from getting out of the country. Here is where I have a minor nitpick. While most of the characters have room to breathe and be three-dimensional, Ross feels a little underdeveloped. They mention offhand that he was an Air Force pilot, and that only comes into play here. Other than that, there's no indication of that being part of his character. With someone like Sam Wilson, you still feel his military background. But again, it's just a nitpick. Eventually, M'Baku and the Jabari fight the Border Tribe with the Dora Milaje, as T'Challa fights Killmonger in the CG cluster climax within the Vibranium mines. Yeah, let's talk about this. While most of the film's effects are widely praised, this is one everybody agrees does not look good. However, I will say that despite this, the emotional weight of the fight is still present and is enough to keep me invested. It's like watching an episode of classic Doctor Who. The cheap and dated effects don't really matter if the performances and story make up for it. Using the subsonic panels to cancel out the nanites in their suits, T'Challa lands a killing blow. As he dies, Eric says how he always dreamed of seeing the sunset over Wakanda, as his father said they were the most beautiful in the world. T'Challa takes him to the edge to see it. He tries to convince him to let them heal him, but he chooses to die, wishing to be buried in the ocean alongside his ancestors that escaped slavery by jumping from the ships of colonizers. In the aftermath, T'Challa and Nakia get back together and he returns to the throne, vowing to right the wrongs of the past. The film ends with T'Challa and Shuri going to Oakland to start an outreach center for the youth to help those just like Eric. The mid-credit scene has T'Challa addressing the UN, declaring that Wakanda will finally share its knowledge and resources. The post-credit scene shows a recovered Bucky, who the Wakandans call White Wolf. White Wolf was a completely different character in the comics, and the alias was never used by him. Despite this, the name sticks as he is a white outsider living in the country. His appearance here rounds up his arc in Civil War and sets him up for Infinity War. And with that, Black Panther's ascension as King of Wakanda is complete. I loved this film when it came out. It was one of my favorites of the year. Now I think it leaves a more significant impact because of its legacy. It's a shame we'll never see another standalone adventure with T'Challa, but I honestly couldn't see anyone else to play the character. I'm glad Marvel chose not to recast him, and instead continued the story of Black Panther with a new hero while also honoring Chadwick Boseman. He deserved that much. With all the pieces in place, the time had come to celebrate the MCU's 10th anniversary. Join me next time when we look at Avengers Infinity War, and see if this monumental milestone in the franchise still lives up to its reputation. Until then, if you want to keep up with my videos, then be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and check out my vlogs on my other channel. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and share with friends. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.